What's going on, Russell Wayne and the Main Event 365 Network? This is Jason Kabinda from the Detroit Lions. Here to give y'all a shout out, man. We appreciate all the support, man. Know you guys are big fans. Know that you guys are rooting for us to take the North this year, and we're going to do just that, man. Appreciate you guys so much. Just want to give y'all a shout out. Y'all have a great day.
Yeah, welcome one, welcome all. Welcome to the Main Event 365 podcast. This is episode 3. And this is one of those weird weeks, right? There's no football this weekend, so we got no football to talk about. We got Kansas City next week, but we got a special for you today. On this morning's episode, in the morning session, we were able to interview Mark Schmidt, former Detroit Lions wide receiver. And we had a couple questions that we wanted to ask for him, so we're going to send you right there, right now.
All right.
That's better.
Everybody,
man, that's great.
Welcome to the program. Former Detroit Lion wide receiver Mark Schmidt to the program. We're so blessed to have you here today, Mark. And the reason that I sought you out for this interview is because we are seeing this trend of young players going into early retirement. And I know that you're heavily involved with the NFLPA, the Players Association. And I was hoping you could shed some light on this subject for us. Why are we seeing guys like Justin Jackson, Corey Davis, Sony Michel? I want your insight. What do you think is happening with these young players when they're so young and there's so much in front of them? Are they choosing early retirement?
Well, I use Chris Borland as a marker for this. He played for the 49ers about 4 or 5 years ago. He came out of Wisconsin, and he was leading tackler for the San Francisco 49ers as a rookie. And he played 1 year. Like I said, he made the all-rookie team and then retired. I think some of it has to do with the head injuries. I'm on the forefront with the NFLPA in regard to CTE and CTE related issues. I was a big part of it when it came out. I'm still a big part of it. So I think that has something to do with, I'm not inside these guys' heads, but you guys are asking me about a trend. Again, everybody has their own reasons. So I'm only speculating. This is not gospel, what I'm telling you, but I think some of it does relate to some of the injuries that they've had in college. And now you continue on to the pros. One of the things that I would say to you all is that when you get to the pros, you need something left in the tank. Everybody thinks, parents think, players think when they're in college, play as many downs as you can, play as much as you can, be on the field as much as you can so people can see you, so you're doing great and da-da-da. It's really not like that. It was like that for me. I actually pulled myself off punt return team in college. Because I didn't want to get used up. So some of these guys, to answer your question as best I can, and it's still speculation because I am not them, I would say certain players, when they get to the NFL, are a little used up. They've had 2 or 3 or 4 concussions. They've had shoulder injuries. They've had knee injuries. And now with all the information out there and all the medical information out there, it's a situation where these guys are at a crossroads in their life. And a lot of them, or more than we think, I shouldn't say a lot, but more than we think, are retiring, like you said, at an early age. So, it's again, I'm not there, but I think that CTE has something to do with it. I was diagnosed about a year ago, early stages, but we have it. And now a study came out just recently, and I'll end right here for the next question. But a study recently just came out of people who had died before the age of 30. Now, of those people who had died at the age of 30, 40% of them, a certain percentage of them, they were athletes, were college athletes. 40% were football players. These are people who died before age 30. So, it's something that's going on. And then they went ahead and they measured the general public once again, the general public. They took 150 subjects who'd never played football, who never played contact sports, and less than 1% had CTE. So there is a direct relation between football and CTE. It is out there. This was a study that was just done by the University of Rochester in the last 2 weeks, and University of Rochester in New York, not Minnesota. So, so that there's things going on out there. I try to answer your question as best I can without being inside their actual heads. but I hope that sheds some light on it, guys.
It does. It definitely brings to light one of the factors that might go into their decision to retire early. And I want to look at it from another angle here, Mark. So without giving us obviously a specific number, we know that NFL players become vested after 3 years in the players union, right? And they are then eligible for a residual income basically for the rest of their life. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
And that money comes from the NFL.
Yeah, they are. And that's are you saying you want to just get their 3 years in and then get the heck out?
Let me finish.
Sure, sorry.
So that money comes from the NFLPA, and that money directly comes from TV revenue contracts and revenue sharing that the NFLPA has in place with the league. Is that correct?
Yes, it is correct.
Okay. Next question.
It is correct.
Is that money that Justin Jackson's going to receive now enough to sustain him for the rest of his life?
No, it's not. No, not a guy who's vested a short period of time like that. I don't know exactly how many years Jackson has in the league. You guys might know that. If you tell me, I'll be able to give you some numbers. 4. Okay.
4 years.
Okay. He's got 4 in the league. Now if he defers it until he's, but he's not going to defer. You're asking me can he get right now at probably age 30? Okay. It would be somewhere around, and again, this is only speculation. I'm trying to give you just some general numbers from based upon my experience. He would probably get somewhere around $1,600 to $1,800 a month. Okay. Ooh. Possibly if he has a real good case, he could get around $2,200 a month.
Okay.
That's it.
So definitely
from my knowledge. Now, that's just my knowledge.
So not enough to live comfortably, that's for sure.
Well, not really, guys. No. Now, if he defers it until he's 40, that 1,800 would become, 2,600 or something like that. Obviously, you know how that works. But you're basically saying, okay, the guy's getting out. Does he have enough money? Does he have enough money to really live and justify his retirement? That's what you're asking me. And I would say no. Okay. I would say the desire to get out is greater than the money that's going to come in. Okay.
That's a great answer, Mark. Thank you so much for that. That clears up a lot. It's still very mystifying to me, and I think you bring a good point that it's probably a case-by-case basis, right? Everybody might have their own reasons for doing it, but we are seeing a trend, and I'm just trying to look for a marker. I'm trying to look for something that makes it appealing to these players to give up on their career, because obviously Justin Jackson probably had a place on this Detroit Lions team, if nothing else, as a returner, even if not a running back.
Well, I would tell you this, is that, getting through an entire, and I saw this coming with Brady. And of course, Brady is a marker, and it's a popular marker, but he is a popular marker. To go through an entire season with, like a Coach Arians, who I played for, Bruce Arians, that is a real laborious task. I knew after Brady had won the title with Coach, with BA during, the 22-21 season, I knew that was done. I had played for Coach, and, as great as he is, it's a tough and a laborious task. And Brady, thinking about retiring after that was probably a lot because of Coach and his demands. And I love Coach a lot, but it's a lot to take on. Dan Campbell is a lot to take on. He's a lot to take on. And sometimes it's just better for these guys, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I don't know if you got to be realistic with yourself. Yeah, you're a pro athlete and you're expected to do that. This is what you do, right? But then you look inside yourself and you say, hey, man, I got 3 or 4 years in. I can get a job doing this. I can use my NFL status. Look at me. I played how many years ago? You guys are still calling me for interviews. I mean, so, you can use it in different ways to make money, keep your name out there after your 3 or 4 years and have a nice life out of it and work with the NFL and work with the Players Association, not get hit in the head anymore, not worse than your CTE, which you probably already have after 3 years. So there's a lot of going to broadcasting. There's a lot of things that these guys can do now with those couple years under their belt and using the term NFL player underneath their name.
Right. former NFL player carries a lot of weight, whether you're a car salesman or whatever you do in your post football life.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
an extra leg
yeah,
you
it
have out
does.
for sure. That's
Yeah,
awesome,
it
Mark.
does.
Thank
I
you so
think
much.
that, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm just
That's
having a
okay.
hard time hearing, but I have a hard time hearing anyway. But one of the things, I've used it my entire life. I used it today. I mean, so, you utilize these things and you utilize these tools that you've been given. And I think that the league now is bigger than it's ever been. It's it is what it is. It's the league is bigger now than it's ever been. So if you have that label underneath you, former NFL player, you use it to sell cars, like you mentioned, which is a great point. You use it to sell insurance. Okay. You use it to get a broadcasting career like you guys are doing here. Okay. And you know what? The rough patch is over and the rigorous work is over. And the shoulder injuries and the knee injuries and, the other things are over. And listening to Dan Campbell, as much as I love him, is finally over. So it's like, I laugh about it, but I kind of see the point. I really do.
Right. Getting your ear chewed off by Dan Campbell is probably not any fun.
Yeah, no, probably not.
You've had enough of that shit.
Mark, we know that your time is valuable, so I got just one or two more quick questions for you. One thing I wanted to get this is a personal thing for me, Mark.
Yeah.
You posted a picture a couple of weeks ago about training camp. When training camp broke and you were sharing your training camp experiences, and you had a picture there with a former All-American quarterback, Chuck Long, first-round draft pick by the Detroit Lions. And I remember that time so vividly because you and I are about the same age. I remember that time so vividly and being so excited about Chuck Long coming to the Detroit Lions. And in his first NFL pass, he threw a 40-yard bomb to Leonard Thompson for a touchdown. And, man, we were off and running. And then it just kind of dissipated and fizzled. Can you help me explain what happened to Chuck Long?
Yeah, I can, and I'm going to do it gently because I was roommates with Eric Hipple, who you may be familiar with.
Yeah.
I would say this gently, and Chuck was a great guy out of Iowa. He was, like I said, I was our first round pick, as you mentioned, but I would say that this is difficult. Again, and then everybody's going to say, well, I was biased. I had a really good mini camp my rookie year. Very good mini camp. I've got the newspaper articles to prove it. And I found out as a receiver at an early age that probably Eric Hipple was maybe a better quarterback to begin with. And I like Chuck. I have a lot of respect for him. He went on to coach at San Diego State, University of Oklahoma. He's done a great job. I like him personally as a person. In my mind, as a wide receiver, Eric Hipple was a better quarterback. And that is the way I looked at it. And it was kind of clear to some other people too. Jeff Chadwick would never comment on it. As close as I am with Chad, who you probably remember, he would never even comment on it because I would whisper little things into his ear, that our first round pick is not as good as the guy who's been here for 5 years. and Chad never said a word, so he's not guilty of anything.
That's the reason that Eric Hipple was a better quarterback and probably Gary Danielson as well. But we're seeing it today. Anthony Richardson, Gardner Minshew's a better quarterback than Anthony Richardson right now. But Richardson's going to start. We see Davis Mills, who's probably a better quarterback right now than C.J. Stroud. But C.J. Stroud's going to start. They're going to start these young quarterbacks and develop them. Do you think maybe Chuck Long suffered for the philosophy and the times that he came out? And today, if Chuck Long were drafted, he'd probably start and they would take their lumps to develop him. What do you think of that?
Well, I agree with it. I agree with it. You don't want to throw them to the dogs too early, but I guess these teams are now so much pressure to play these young guys because they have these pretty big contracts. And more importantly, they have such high expectations coming out of college, like a Richardson, like you mentioned. Beating out a Gardner Minshew is not an easy task. This is a guy who makes very few mistakes. He, this is the example you use, very few mistakes. He controls the ball extremely well, like an Alex Smith. And you got to beat the guy out, and you got to make it more advantageous for them to play you over a Gardner Minshew. So it's not throwing them to the dogs too quickly, but they kind of are. And he can ruin a player. Also, it probably didn't help Chuck that much. He got thrown to the dogs actually pretty early, and Chuck did. I'm gonna disagree with you a hair there, but there was pressure, as as a fan, to see him play. You just mentioned that at the beginning of the question, that you were anxious to see this kid, this consensus All-American out of Iowa, and it's a story of do we play him too soon or do we wait a little bit? So, I would say, for some of these young guys, it's hard to beat these guys. Minshew's been in the league 5 years now and has, been pretty successful. And, it's but there's so much pressure. There's so much more now around the game. There's so much more media around the game. There's social media on networks like this and Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff. Obviously. So there are a lot of different pressures, and the NFL is probably bigger than ever. Although with the rule changes, I don't think the game is as good as it was 25 years ago, but that's only my opinion.
Last question for me, Mark. We're seeing Aaron Glenn start to develop this defense in Detroit, and we were talking about it just before you came on, how we seem to see development and progression with the DBs, and that might be a direct result of AG being an incredible DB himself.
We're going to bite a kneecap off.
And I want to ask, did you ever line up against Aaron Glenn?
I may have. I'm trying to think of it. I don't specifically remember. There are certain players that I lined up against that'll tell me, oh yeah, hey, I played against you either in college or or at the All-Star games or play. So, okay. But I give him a lot of credit as a coach, and I really do think he's done a good job, especially on the back end. The linebacker core should be solid. The D line is solid. I don't think I'm looking for negatives anywhere along that defense, and I guess you'd have to say probably the defensive backfield if you had to pick one, simply because those guys are not proven, but it's going to be improved improving overall because they haven't had a chance in this type of situation. But I would say that the D line is solid. Houston is solid. Hutchinson is solid. I mean, all those guys are solid. Kaminsky, they're real good at the D line. Hutchinson now, the kid from Oklahoma State, Rodriguez, and now Campbell coming in. They're just going to be better. I mean, this team scored a ton of points last year, and Goff had the great finish, but they couldn't stop anybody, guys. Right. And Anzalone is now signed for another contract. So I'm just trying to throw things in here to justify what I'm talking about. So it's like kind of a situation right now of they're getting better. They're not going to give up so many points. They're going to stop some people. And then if the offense just does what they did last year, my gosh, that equates, I'm going to be crazy here, that equates to 12 wins with this team. Jeez, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that. I truly believe that.
Great. Okay,
I would say
great.
12.
Oh,
that's
okay.
And you guys can hold me to that.
Russ is writing it down. Who's the most athletic guy you ever saw on an NFL field firsthand?
Let's just keep it with the Lions, because I'm going to mention guys from a long time ago that played for other teams, and that's not, this is a Lions-based show. So I would say, I'm going to say this, and I've said this to his face. I talk to him twice a week. The most athletic guy on the team when I was there was Jeff Chadwick, and there really wasn't any question about it. Just a gifted athlete, ran routes incredibly well. I literally thought he was uncoverable. I played with Pete Manley, also good player, but not on the level of what Chad was, just athletically. Chad was a 6'3", 190-pound gazelle from a Division II school, and he was, in my mind, uncoverable. We ran a 40 one time. They made him run a 40 in his 5th year, which he thought was ridiculous, okay? So he was a little upset at Lou Carpenter, our wide receivers coach, for even making him run a 40. So Chad got to about the 35-yard line and started saying something and kind of goofing around as he finished the last 5 yards and ran a 4.52 at 192 pounds at 6'3". I mean, if you would have put his head down, he'd be 4.4 or below. But he was mocking the 40 while he was doing it, because he's a little bit of a wise guy, although I love him. And he ran a 4.52. And we would watch him do the drills. some of the cone drills and some of the other things, the foot speed drills. And we, as pro athletes watching him, we would laugh because he was so gifted. I mean, so I would say Jeff Chadwick. I would say Bruce McNorton was up there. I would say Chris Sheffield was up there. Those DBs that I played with. Benny Blades was up there in a different way, not from a speed standpoint, but from an agility standpoint. At 221 pounds, I would put Benny Blades in there, but below Chadwick, all below Chadwick. Chadwick was number one. And I talked to John Witkowski, who played here for a few years in the 80s, about a week ago. And I said, we were on the same subject. This is just 2-3 weeks ago. I said, who was the most athletic guy? He said, Chad. All the way, Chadwick was. So anyway, I hope that answers your question.
I think that we lost Mike. I think that Mike's having some technical difficulties.
Oh, okay.
But that's all right. That's all right. We were just talking about the roster cuts today. I mean, what was the biggest surprise for you?
There's always going to be some surprises with that group that you just mentioned. Nobody really sticks out at me that much. Gilmore, maybe a little bit. There's some hard choices this time of year. And everybody's going to say, well, geez, we shouldn't have done that, or we should have done this. And,
right.
There's always some second guessing from the fan base. And, this is the best fan base in the NFL. I've been around. And, there's going to be some of that, but none of those really jump out to me. And the guys that they re-signed, it's probably justified. I don't want to second guess coach at this point. It's just too early. Right. I dance on eggshells a little bit on some of that stuff, because I am so associated with the league and the team. That doesn't mean that I'm not outspoken about things. So
right on. I mean, but the good thing is it's a testament to Brad Holmes, because a couple of the guys that they did waive did get picked up by other teams. I mean, even though it is Arizona Cardinals, they're probably looking for bodies at this point, but they're having a hard time over there in Arizona. They might be the weakest franchise in the NFL right now, and they're looking for cast-offs, and they took Starling Thomas from us. I'm feeling a certain way.
Thomas, I was surprised about Reynolds, though, a little bit. I was surprised about that. The Cardinals, I'm very familiar with. I lived out in Arizona. My kids are born in Phoenix area, and I'm familiar with the organization and Mr. Bidwell, Mr. Senior mostly, who is a wonderful man. I actually spent time in the Cardinal facility for a while, and I have a lot of feelings toward the organization. And my former college coach, Bruce Arians, coached there for a number of years and turned the thing around. So I was a Cardinal season ticket holder for 7 years, believe it or not. So I'm very close with the organization, and I still am to this day. Anyway, sometimes people will say, "Oh, you played for the Cardinals." I'm like, no, I'm a Lion all the way. But it's funny that you mentioned that. Yeah, when you have a team like Detroit that's very, very good and speculated to be good, these guys that are being released from a better team versus a team toward the bottom is going to help you get re-signed with another team. So you make a really good point. That some of these guys that were let go from a team that's the Lions, that is expected to do really well and be in the top 5 or 6 in the league, a player cut from there has a very good chance at signing with a Cardinals organization, or even a team like even the Chicago Bears, who haven't had a lot of success last year. So that's I agree with it, and it's good for them. And when you come into this league, I'm just going to throw this in here. It's better to be drafted, and nobody will say this, better to be drafted or signed as a free agent by a team that is not so good. Okay. It helps. Okay. Guys, I'm gonna let you go. I really enjoyed this. Call me anytime. Put this on YouTube. I think you guys do anyway.
Yeah, we're all over the place.
Thank you so much, Mark Schmidt, for being on the program. God bless you, and thanks again. Take care, brother.
Thank you. You guys are great. You do a great job. You guys do a great job. You ask great questions. You guys are very knowledgeable. I just wanted to say that. I really enjoyed that. You guys are doing the right thing. I do a lot of podcasts. Some of the guys that do them are not so good. You guys are terrific. Call me anytime. I'd love to be on board with you guys during the season. So just let me know. Okay, gentlemen, have a great day. God bless you.
Thank you,
awesome.
Sir.
Thank you so much, Mark. That's Mark Schmidt, former NFL wide receiver, playing for the Detroit Lions. I mean, he has the experience of being able to say that he's been on a field with the greatest running back of all time, Barry Sanders.
Wasn't that great? Wasn't that great, Ross?
That was fantastic.
It's like we were a real show for a minute there.
we almost look legitimate. That's awesome.
Hey, do you know why I cut out? Because my phone was sitting up on the steering wheel baking in the sun.
Yeah. Yeah.